All right. Good morning. How are you? We can't hear you, Derek.
Romero, can you get me unmuted?
There he is. There he is.
What's up, Texas? What's up, Mexico? Everybody's still waking up over here. They're still waking up, John. But today is, I think, one of our most important days, John. And I know Ramiro's really excited for it. And unfortunately, I know Ramiro told me this too. Today is typically our least watched and least attended day of the 5 days, which is unfortunate because we think this is one of the most important. It's one of the huge areas that the freedom movement is lacking. Everybody's got email, Google phones, Apple phones, still using. Some people probably got Echoes in their house and Alexas and Ring doorbell cameras.
You think in this community they got the Amazon Alexa?
I know they do. I know they do. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's the quiet one in the audience. They're like, "Don't look at me! Don't look at me!"
I'm not trying to judge anybody. I'm just saying, though, this is one area I believe our communities, overlapping, intersecting communities, are really missing out on. And to me, this is one of the most important days. So I hope everybody at home is excited to learn lots of information. John, I know Ramiro's going to have some words to say in a moment, but I wanted to start off just before we get into all of the solutions, right? Because we're about solutions. There's going to be people talking about decentralized VPNs and all kinds of new internet infrastructure. But let's take a look for a moment at what Davos was promoting this week and the kind of technology they like.
We're not talking about implanted devices of the future. I'm talking about wearable devices that are like Fitbits for your brain. It used to be that there was very little we could tell from EEG activity, but already using consumer wearable devices, these are headbands, hats that have sensors that can pick up your brainwave activity, earbuds, headphones, tiny tattoos that you can wear behind your ear. We can pick up emotional states like, are you happy or sad or angry? We can pick up and decode faces that you're seeing in your mind. Simple shapes, numbers, your PIN number to your bank account. We're not talking about implanted devices of the future. I'm talking about wearable devices.
All right, take it down, guys. Thank you for that.
Fitbits for your brain.
So that was.
It used to be that there was very little.
Somebody on the producing side, please take that down. Thank you.
But already using consumer wearable devices. These are headbands,
take that off the screen,
hats
please.
that have sensors that can pick up your brainwave activity, earbuds, headphones.
All right, sorry about that, guys. So if you didn't hear that, and
we can
it's still playing right now in the background.
Like, are you happy or sad or angry?
They're talking about wearable technology.
And decode faces that you're seeing in your mind. Simple shapes.
We pulled it down, but it needs to be stopped playing on the computer over there. Okay, good.
Technology, though, that detects your emotions, that can detect your PIN word, your PIN password, and images and shapes in your mind. That's the kind of technology of the future they want for us to have. Those are the sort of things I guarantee you in the coming years, you're going to hear more promotion of wearables. We're already seeing, like she said, the Fitbit, but for your mind. So just wanted to sample that so you understand this whole week in Davos, Switzerland, that's the kind of technology they're promoting.
Yep, and it's not just one single company, but it's a collection of them. We know Elon is working on Neuralink, but more recently, Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, Microsoft and Amazon have invested in their own implant, which is actually it's a mesh around capillaries in the brain, and they're using it for paraplegics to actually be able to type out words and tweet. So all of this is coming out, and they're working really hard on this technology. And working in the technology space, I know that a lot of technologists look up to these companies: Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google. That's like the pinnacle of a career in software. And it's kind of funny because these companies don't give a shit about the people who work there. And we're seeing that being evidenced today by these mass layoffs. I know several big companies this year have had layoffs of thousands of employees, thousands of software engineers who are usually paid over $100,000. And they're just showing their true colors. So really, Take Back Our Tech is reclaiming the power that we have in technology, because technology is the thing that brought us here. You heard about the Greater Reset through our website. You heard about Derek's work or John's work first online, and then maybe we had the blessing to find each other in person. But the point is that even though the internet was created by the government, we could still use it for our own benefit. We can still use it for good. So my hope with Take Back Our Tech Day is we can call upon these technologists who may not have a role in the corporate space anymore. But by God, we need you to build solutions for a free humanity.
Right on. Cool. All right, thanks, Ramiro. Good for Ramiro, ladies and gentlemen. He's looking sharp today. All right, we are going to be bringing our first speaker on here today. But before we do that, I wanted to do a quick priming session. Anybody familiar with Tony Robbins? Tony Robbins came out against the clot shot actually pretty strongly. I saw him at Funnel Hacking Live, this marketing conference. And he's like, it's great to be here, seeing nobody. Is that Alex Jones or Tony Robbins he's doing there? I don't know. It's great to be here, seeing everybody without masks on. Wasn't that ridiculous? Oh, my God. And there was like somebody sitting next to me with a mask on. No judgment. But Tony talks a lot about priming, getting pumped up for your day, getting motivated, putting yourself in a proper headspace. Because I tell you what, not only does it greatly increase the likelihood of you achieving success that day, and you achieve success that day, you have a successful week, successful month, successful year. Before you know it, you're a success. Great success. My wife. Anybody know that one? Come on, Borat. Yep, Borat. I know that one. It's a good one. Okay. Really what it's all about, because there's so many negative thoughts and advertisements and all this crazy stuff. And even within our own movement, Derek was taking a couple jabs at some of what we call fear porn, just sensationalist headlines, doom and gloom. I mean, you follow some of these news outlets. We already would have been in like 3 civil wars. The Democrats should have already came and taken all our guns, and the world practically should have ended. We got a lot of negativity coming towards us. So one thing that I like to do in the morning when I wake up, I like to listen to these guys that get me jacked up and motivated, like this guy, Grant Cardone. And there's some movie that I really like. Maybe some of you have seen it. And they may not be the most ethical folks in the movie, but there's a little practice that they do that gets me pumped up. And so I wanted to share that practice with you and invite you to join me. Those of you watching online, those of you here in Texas, and those of you in Mexico, join me with a little priming. Ready? Just follow me. Mm-hmm. 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 Come on, everybody. Mm-hmm. Mexico, come on. Mm-hmm. Woo. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Greater reset. Living free. Won't you all come prime with me? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, come on, loud. Mm-hmm. Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates. We'll defeat them with love, not hate. Yeah, come on. Mm-hmm. Woo. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Much love and respect. Enjoy today. It's Take Back Our Tech. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. All right. Take that, Klaus Schwab. All right. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and go to our next presenter. He's somebody that I've worked closely with more recently, grown fond of this gentleman, and privacy is critically important. In fact, this guy thinks without privacy, there's no freedom. But privacy and privacy technology can sometimes be pretty challenging. And I think the unique offering that our next presenter brings to the table is taking really complex topics and making it very, very simple. Kind of like old Jack Spirko, taking the complex stuff and rednecking it and making it really easy to understand. So our next presenter is going to share some of those tips and strategies on how you can become more free through greater privacy. Give it up for Glenn Meter of the Privacy Action Plan, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, everyone. I am honored to be speaking here today in front of fellow freedom lovers on my favorite topic, 2 topics, freedom and privacy. And They are both absolutely linked together. And I really want to talk about, today I want to talk about the importance of privacy as it pertains to freedom. So, and the title is, Without Privacy, There Can Be No Freedom. And I want you to think about this title. Without privacy, there can be no freedom. Privacy is at the core of freedom. It's at the core of freedom itself. And I don't know if you've realized this, but power seekers don't really care for freedom lovers, right? People that think for themselves and people who question authority, question the narrative, we get canceled, censored, condemned. But I want you to think about this. What would have happened to America's founding fathers if England had the level of surveillance that the US government has now at its fingertips? What if they were able to look over the founding fathers' shoulders and see what they write before even it is published? Or if they look at all the personal correspondence between them, who it's from and who it's to and what they're saying. And if they could listen in on the private conversations in people's homes. And if they could see where every person was every second of the day, who they met with, who they had lunch with. And they could see every dollar that they owned, where it was, what they spent it on, what would have happened? You know what would have happened, right? They would have been shot. They would have been hunted down. They would have been imprisoned at the very least. We think now of Benedict Arnold as a traitor, right? But he was a hero to England. So Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, they would have been known as the traitors. America would not have been born. The freedom experiment would not have been, would have died before it even got started. And yeah, I already said that. Now, what about the Nazis? What if the Nazis had this level of surveillance that our government has now? It would have been more devastating than even more devastating than it was. So they would have known who the true believers were. They would have known who is hiding the Jews, who is helping the Jews out of the country, who are the resistors. They would have shot them and put them into concentration camps. Now we're dealing with something new, and that is China's new social credit system. And this is real. Some people in the freedom movement that are really high up in the freedom movement don't even think this exists. They will argue to the death it doesn't exist. It does exist. I don't understand how they can say it doesn't exist. It exists now. It is real. It is technological slavery. It's coming to the US, or this is what they want to have happen. And it is powered by surveillance and artificial intelligence. Now, I just want to say a quick word about artificial intelligence. This is not commander data. They're not trying to create a live computer. What they're trying to do is they're collecting so much data on us that they can't process all this data. And so they're trying to figure out how can they turn all of this data into even more control mechanisms that they can control us with. So the Chinese social credit system is a reward and punishment system. And it's like our credit system. And so everyone gets a score. And if your score goes up, you get benefits. If it goes down, you get penalties. So they're very specific and they're very upfront with their goals. So they will isolate people if you have a low score, they're going to isolate you. They're going to isolate you geographically, financially, and socially. So geographic isolation. If you have a low score in China, you're not able to buy a plane ticket. If your score goes lower, you're not able to buy a train ticket. If it goes lower, you're not able to buy a bus ticket. Your license may be taken away. You won't be able to rent a hotel room. You might not be able to get a good apartment. And their stated goal on this is if you have a good score, you'll be free as a bird. And if you have a low score, you can't move an inch. That's what they say. Financial isolation. Can't get a loan. You get fired from your job. Can't get a good job. Can't get a good job with the government. The best jobs over there are with the government. Social isolation. So if your score goes down low enough, you're going to get posters made, and they're going to put posters up that shame you, right? Your kids can't get into good schools. And so that pits husbands against wives, right? Can't get on good dating sites. And there's another one here of phone calls. So if I'm calling Paul and Paul is blacklisted, I'm going to get a message on the phone before it connects. It says, this person has been blacklisted. If you continue this call, you're going to have points removed from your score. Do you want to continue this call? Who's going to take that call? Who's going to continue with that call, right? The final nail in the coffin that they want to put in place is the digital yuan, which is, you know, everyone says, okay, digital currency, what's the difference? We have Visa, we have MasterCard, right? But that's not what this is. This is programmable currency so that it will be tied into the punishment and reward system, and they will be able to give instantaneous punishments, instantaneous rewards. Somebody jaywalks across the street and a camera spots them and flags it, they're going to get $50 taken out of their funds immediately. So it's not get a ticket and it gets mailed to you and do they see you or whatever. It's instantaneous. And they're going to control people in this way. It's going to be instantaneous positives and negatives for people. And it will be total control is what they want to do. And my point is, this is a system of slavery. So it's automated. They don't have to monitor every person. I mean, people don't have to keep watching other people. It's the system and the artificial intelligence that watches everybody. So it's automated. And so it's very low energy to maintain this across the whole spectrum of the population. And all they need to do to get the results they want is just, okay, here's the criteria, here's the reward, here's the penalty. And so they can program that in. So never before in history have the elites had the ability to control the populace like they do now. Now, it is coming to the US, like I said. There's a difference though. And the difference is China is very transparent about what their goals are. They're saying, this is what we're doing. And we're doing this to make you better citizens to do what we want you to do. The West, you know, people wouldn't do that. We wouldn't stand for the government training us to be good citizens, right? So they're doing it in a deceptive way. Everything now is going to be about the greater good. The greater good. Everything will be about the greater good. So, for example, take the jab. Why take the jab? For the greater good. It's not for you, it's for everybody else that you're taking this for. And if you don't take it, you're totally selfish. And it doesn't matter what happens to you. It's for the greater good. That's why we can't talk about what happens to all the people that have taken it and it hasn't turned out well. So the greater good is going to become the mantra that they're singing. So and by the way, I don't want to say, I'm not saying anything about the jab. If you have the jab, I don't care. You know, this is freedom. We don't judge. We don't care what you do individually, right? But this has been pushed globally, and there has been a coordination behind it. And it's almost like this coordination is there's something happening here, but we can't put all the pieces together. So what's really happening here? But what we have seen is we've seen geographic isolation, right? So Australia, New Zealand, China have all locked everyone down. And in Canada, you couldn't even a couple months ago, unvaccinated people couldn't move around the country. Even in the US right now, we have unvaccinated people that are not citizens can't come into the country. Even now, as we speak, it's terrible, right? Financial isolation. Has there been financial isolation? Millions of people. How many people lost their jobs because of this, right? Or they were pressured, and there was so much pressure to do this or you're going to lose your job. There were places that penalized people. I mean, just outright penalties if you don't have the jab. There were rewards given for people that did get the jab. I don't know if you saw one place gave everyone Big Macs and stuff like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. Social isolation. The media and social media has totally come down on I mean, just like everyone slammed everyone that didn't get the jab, right? But it's also couldn't go to concerts, couldn't get Ticketmaster, couldn't go to bars. Don't go see your family at Christmas and Thanksgiving, right? So it's social isolation too. So there's a plan behind what they're doing. And we're going to see this expand. We're going to see get the jab. There's going to be multiple get the jabs. This jab or another jab. Diversity, which is not real diversity, right? It's men are women and women are men. Environment. But it's obvious to me that they do not care about any of these issues. They really don't care about your health. They don't care about your child. They don't care about the society. They don't care about the planet. This is only about control. So another example, electric cars. They're not pushing electric cars because it's better for the environment. They're pushing electric cars because they're surveillance machines and they can be controlled remotely and they can be tied into your carbon credit score. So if you exceed your carbon allotment for the month, maybe you're not going to be able to charge your car fully, or maybe it's going to be slower to charge your car. Maybe your car is not going to let you into certain areas, or maybe it's not going to let you drive beyond a certain distance. This is their plan. This is why they want to do this. So like I said, never before in history have the elites had so much power to control us as they do now. And it is clear they want to enslave us. They're putting the pieces in place to enslave us. They're creating the infrastructure. So the question is, are they going to be able to do this? And I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be successful. I don't think they are. I really don't think they are. But we don't know. But let me ask you this. Is our government, this is going to sound like sacrilege to some people, I think. Is our government any more noble today than the England of 250 years ago? Or China? Or even the Nazis? And that might take some people might question that one. But to answer this question, I'm going to ask you another question, and I really want you to answer this. What is the source of our freedom? Where do we get our freedom from? Just yell it out. Yeah, it's God, and it's within us. And I've heard a bunch of different answers, but yeah, it's our source of freedom is God. So most Americans, if I ask this question to most Americans, and I knew I'd get a good answer from everyone here, but most Americans will say it's because we live in a democracy. But that's not true, because that is basically our government giving us our freedom. But that's wrong. Our government does not make us free. We are free despite our government. We are free. Our freedoms come from God. And that's not a religious statement. If you're not Christian, or if you're whatever you are, it doesn't matter. What I'm talking about is the origin, the starting point, and who has the authority to take those rights away. If they come from God, the government doesn't have the authority to take those rights away, right? And our Constitution protects these God-given rights. And it actually is a very wonderful document. Every government is run by power seekers, and they will take as much power as they are allowed to take. And they do not care. And I literally say they do not care. In any population, you have 3% of the people are sociopaths and 1% are actual psychopaths. So what this means is they have no empathy for the feelings or needs or rights of others. They have no remorse even when their actions harm others. The US has 256 million adults. That means we have 7.68 million sociopaths and 2.56 million psychopaths here. It's kind of scary, right? Some of them are a lot of them are in prison and they've gotten in trouble and they're on the outskirts, but some are very good at hiding in daily life. I think the best way to see them and to find them is to look at the positions that attract them, because they're attracted to power like moths to flame. And I believe that a very high percentage of leaders, political leaders, and some big tech company leaders are psychopaths, literally psychopaths. But I do want to say I am optimistic. I am very optimistic about our future. I want to tell you about Pastor Art Pawlowski. He is a Canadian freedom fighter. And yeah, so a lot of people know him. So he's the guy that Canada has tried to shut down his church services every Sunday throughout the whole COVID thing. And he shouts them down, shouts them out. And you've seen the videos on YouTube probably. I was talking to him, I interviewed him, and I said, you know, it's kind of depressing, all of this global tyranny that's going on, because it seems like they have so much power and everything. He had a perspective that it was pretty refreshing. So he said, all of this stuff has always been there, except now God is shining a light on that. And so we're able to see this. And he had another thing that he said too, where he said God is shaking the fence. So you can't be a fence shaker anymore, or fence sitter anymore. You've got to take a stand either on the side of tyranny or freedom. And so he sees everything that's happening as good. And that has really shaped my view of what's going on here. 4% versus 20 or more than 20%. So while 4% are psychopaths and sociopaths, 20% plus are lions, right? We are all lions here. We believe in freedom. We believe in justice, peace, prosperity, all of this stuff, right? And we are the ones that make this world go around. All of the freedom, this is a really important point. All of the freedom, all of the happiness, all of the good things about our society, we created. That was us. All of the prosperity, that was us. We did it in spite of them, in spite of these blood-sucking parasites. They had nothing to do with it. The Federal Reserve had nothing to do with the prosperity that we have, right? Okay, so I want to go through I want to go through 7 points. So their mantra is, their roadmap for the future is the greater good. Everything going forward is going to be the greater good. The jab, the environment, everything. There is the greatest good is freedom, right? Individual freedom. And we have to always come back to that. That should be our roadmap. And so freedom has always resulted in the best results for everybody, right? Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of being able to defend ourselves, freedom to raise our children as we see fit, free markets. All of that stuff is for everyone's benefit. The next point here is that our rights come from God. And I believe that if you look over the world right now and you look at some of the countries, there are countries that have fallen to this tyranny, right? New Zealand, Australia, China, many parts of Europe have fallen to this tyranny, as have many of the blue states, right? So the red states really have been the holdout. Why? I believe it's because we believe that our rights come from God and that the government doesn't have the authority to take those rights away. So I was interviewing Brian Peckford. Brian Peckford is in Canada. He is, so in the US, we have the Bill of Rights, right? And we've had those since the 1700s. So they're in our DNA. In Canada, they have the Canadian Charter, which wasn't created until 1982. And that is the equivalent of our Bill of Rights. Brian Peckford helped write those Bill of Rights, and he's the last living signer of those Bill of Rights. And so I was talking to him. He's a wonderful guy. And this is the conclusion we came to. I asked him about all of these different countries and why is it that Canada has fallen to this tyranny, and Australia and New Zealand. And he said, this is the conclusion we came up with. Canadians don't believe that the rights come from God. New Zealanders don't believe that the rights come from God. So that means, where do they come from? They believe they come from the government. And that means the government has the authority to take them away. I think it's important that we cherish and defend our Constitution. It is a wonderful roadmap for us. And all the problems that we have is because those are places that we've let slip. And so the Constitution is the law of the land. Any law that contradicts the Constitution is an illegal law. And just because past generations have let the federal government get way too much power, primarily under the New Deal is when a lot of that happened, that doesn't mean that the law changed. We can take that back, and DeSantis shows us how to do that with the states, but we can go much further than that. And we need to get our states. I think the federal government, quite honestly, is kind of a write-off. The states is where we have the power. The legal power resides in the states. Point 4, their control system is completely based on surveillance and artificial intelligence. It's not completely. I mean, they've got propaganda and all of that stuff, the media. But what they're trying to do, what they're trying to put in place now is based on surveillance. And it is our job. We have to stop just talking about freedom. I think we have to talk about freedom and privacy. So if you fight for freedom, you have to fight for privacy. If you stand up for freedom, you have to stand up for privacy. We have to each talk about privacy. We have to learn about privacy. We have to take the steps needed to get private. And there are some very simple things that you can do to get private. And I encourage you to do that. That's why I do the Privacy Action Plan, because I believe that without privacy, we don't have any freedom. This is my driving force there. I think it's very important that we do not trust big tech. And every product that they create is a Trojan horse. They're very good at creating these shiny objects that we want to have, but it's all a Trojan horse. It is all specifically designed to get our data. And so we have to take the steps to get away from that. And I see it as, you know, we've got on one hand, we've got privacy. On the other hand, we've got convenience. And there's a sliding bar there. And we've got to figure out, where do we reside on that sliding bar? And that's a decision that we all have to decide. But I think we do need to make some sacrifices there on the convenience side. You know, the above phone. The above phone is a great phone. Is it? I use the above phone. Is it going to ever be an iPhone? No, but I mean, it's pretty darn close. But is it ever going to be equivalent to what the largest, wealthiest company in the world is going to be able to create? No, it's not. There's some sacrifices that we need to make there. But it is important to take those steps. And the above phone is, and other phones like it are really a good step to getting private and secure. And there's a lot of other steps that we can do to get private and secure. Definitely Alexa, Roomba, all those things. I think we can do without those. I hope you agree with that. Okay, the final, or actually, I've got 2 more points here. I do recommend, and this is not financial advice, this is just life advice, I guess, is get some money outside of the financial system. They're locking the financial system down, and they will have control over you because of that. And so Get some of your assets outside of that system: gold, silver, crypto. I prefer Monero and Pirate Chain above anything else. I think we will see those things. I don't get into them because of any speculation about growth or anything like that, but I think they will become more popular as people see they eventually open their eyes to what's happening here. And the last point here is teach your children about privacy, and especially that privacy and freedom are interconnected, and that we have the right, the God-given right to be private and free. And we can't let Google or the CEO of Google or a politician convince us that we don't have the right, or that they don't have the right to be private, right? And we can't let them buy into this thing of we have to sacrifice our privacy for the greater good either. So in summary, we live in a crazy world. I think we'd all agree. Our lives are online. That makes us vulnerable to all sorts of things that we've never been vulnerable to before. We have no way of knowing how we are vulnerable to that. They know a lot more than we do about this stuff. So they are better at targeting us than we are at defending ourselves. But there are some things that you can learn to do that. We have to realize that privacy is essential for freedom itself, and we have to take both back. They're not going to give us our freedom back. They're not going to give us our privacy back. We have to take those back. And the good news is that the market is responding. There are a lot of privacy-oriented products and services out there now, and that's freedom, right? And that's what Mark Moss was talking about yesterday. I encourage you to get into the market too, come up with freedom and privacy products, and just help the movement. So that's it. Thank you. Actually, I do have one more thing. We do have a special offer, a special thing for the show. PrivacyActionPlan.com. If you use the coupon code Greater Reset, you get 40% off lifetime membership. So thank you.
Get it for Glenn Meter, ladies and gentlemen. Good job, Mr. Glenn. Okay, definitely take advantage of that offer. If you're somebody that struggles with technology, if you're like, these Zoom meetings are overwhelming, what the heck's going on with this damn pesky smartphone device? Or if you still have a dumb phone where it's like ABC is on number 2, D, E, F. You guys remember having a text like that? The Nokia brick phone. If you happen to be one of those people, Glenn's your guy, because he takes stuff and makes it real simple and slow and holds your hand. And sometimes we need a little hand holding. Okay, so we are going to, well, why don't you guys grab me that schedule there real quick? The schedule? Thank you. We're going to play a video. You got everything back there, Philip?
I'm going all the way up. I'm going all the way up. I'm letting go in my heart of everything that holds me down. No, no.
Are you searching for the truth online? Do you want to avoid tracking and advertising by big tech search engines?
We played a couple ads there, ladies and gentlemen. But let's go ahead and bring up Derek down in Mexico. And I believe he's going to introduce our next speaker who we have with us there in the production studio.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for that, John. Yeah. So give it up one more time for Glenn. As John said, he's there to help those who are still having trouble. Maybe if you're feel like you're at a really beginner level with certain technology. And we're going to go deeper and deeper as the day goes. I'm excited for this next speaker because is anybody familiar with a VPN, virtual private network? How many people use VPNs? Good. Most of them are shit, and you're probably still not private. But there are people working on this, and I'd never heard of this until recently, this idea of decentralized VPNs. Anybody heard of that yet? There's only a couple of them yet. And one of them is this next project, who the founder, Alexander Latrieve, is here with us today. And he's a blockchain specialist, IT specialist, security specialist. And in some circles, he's kind of a legend because he created privacy tools for activists in Russia and elsewhere to use to avoid tracking and things like that. So I'm really excited to have him to join us virtually. Please welcome Alexander. Thank you, brother, for being here. Give him a warm welcome. All right, brother, it's yours for the next little bit here. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for introduction. So yeah, it's nice to get connected to you guys today and speak on that particular event. That was a great speech given by Glenn previously about the privacy and importance of it. So yeah, as you already heard, I'm working on a certain products which is meant to bring back privacy to our own hands, and our own product is decentralized VPN. So yeah, let's talk about VPNs for a little bit. So after the massive speech that Edward Snowden gave to the outer world about the mass global surveillance programs that United States and a number of other governments are running, everybody became much more concerned about their own privacy than they were before. And people started to investigate how can they protect themselves online. And they found out that there is such a technology as a VPN, and they started to use it in order to protect themselves online, protect their traffic, their data, and also to combat censorship, because certain governments don't want you to read some particular news or visit some particular websites, and they block it for you there in your country, and the only option for you to get there is to use VPN. But are those VPN services are that safe actually? Well, not really. So yeah, what I would like to do is to give it a slight review of the VPN services by giving you one number, which is insane. So how does it sound if I tell you that 105 VPN services all around the globe are running just by 24 companies? So maybe you can find some of the VPN services that you used there on the list. There's biggest groups of companies which are running those VPN services. For example, NordVPN running Surfshark, NordVPN, and Atlas VPN service. There is such a company called Cape Technologies. They're running CyberGhost, Private Internet Access, and ExpressVPN. And you probably never heard that those VPN services are actually not competing with each other, but just flooding the market to make sure that you go and use one of the products of one of those companies. So considering that those companies are centralized VPN services, we cannot be sure and believe their promise that they do not keep logs, or believe they promise that they do not cooperate with the governments or any third parties. So we came up with a solution which is meant to fix that problem, because the current VPN is broken. So the solution is Sentinel blockchain. And what it does, it brings back our privacy for VPN services by making it decentralized. So we took the idea of the Bitcoin, the decentralized money, which is out there for a while, as you know, and we decided to put the same idea behind the VPN services to make sure that we start bringing back our own privacy to our own hands from the very, very low level, from the internet itself, not from the certain services we use on it. So how does exactly Sentinel works? Sentinel is a decentralized network, as I told already. Anyone can spin up their own servers and provide traffic for other users. So basically, let's say that you have your own computer at home, or you run some certain server on a data center, and you have some of a bandwidth remaining, some of a bandwidth you are willing to share with the community. So you can put your own server into the Sentinel network, and there is thousands of users who will be able to use your device as an exit point. As we call it decentralized VPN, it means that there is no center. So there is no certain company as on this list. They cannot identify you. They cannot keep records. They cannot link you to a certain server or something because they don't have any of your identity. And as we see it there, multiple applications can also benefit from the one Sentinel network. So let's say there is a company, Solar Labs, which is my company, which is doing VPN applications. There is a numbers of other companies which is also building on top of Sentinel. And all of those companies are consuming the benefits of Sentinel blockchain by giving users a fair choice of which servers he would like to use, how he would like to be connected, which protocols he would like to choose, and more. To connect to the VPN using decentralized VPN network Sentinel, you don't need to enter your credit card details. You don't need to create an account. You don't need to buy a subscription or something. You just use an anonymous wallet on the DVPN network, and you just top it up with tokens from any other exchange or decentralized exchange or any other method you can use. And there's no way for providers to actually know who you are and how do you use your VPN. So as I told, that there is a possibility for us to also use this network. So that's why we came up with our own VPN application. It's called Solari VPN. I'll give a link for download of this application at the end of my speech. But for now, let's talk a bit more about the benefits of decentralized VPN. So as I can say, we can divide the idea of using VPN services for two areas, two fields. The first one is to make sure we keep it private. For example, we know that there is a certain internet service providers which are trying to track us, to steal our data, sell it somewhere, cooperate with governments on spying on people, and many other things that are happening out there. So we would like to protect ourselves from it. And we're using VPN to encrypt our traffic and make sure that no one ever know what's inside of it. And the second use of VPN services, which can be there, is to combat censorship. And decentralized VPN services are extremely good at it. So unlike the other centralized VPN services such as NordVPN, ExpressVPN, and many others, those are not really able to withstand censorship in certain countries. For example, in Russia, there is a number of websites which are blocked and cannot be accessed without VPN services. And people started to use VPN services in Russia back in 2018. But since then, government learned a lot about people actually using VPN services. So yeah, they banned VPN services as well. So NordVPN, ExpressVPN, and many others old school VPN services are not available in Russia, and they cannot let you there. So what other choices people have there? Exactly, they can use the VPN service. The VPN service, by its own decentralized nature, cannot be blocked by a certain government. It's like trying to block Bitcoin, pretty useless idea. You cannot do the same way as you do it with a centralized VPN. For example, if government would like to ban, let's say, some centralized VPN service, they will go after the certain company which runs it. They will learn which IP addresses they have, which networks do they use, is there any sort of legal entities or something. They will use it against this VPN server, they will ban it, and they will make sure that you never access it. But with DVPN technologies, with decentralized VPN technology, the situation is totally different. You cannot do the same because there is no legal entity which is behind the servers. There is no certain IP addresses ranges which you can ban. There is no one to go after. So we already operating successfully in some certain countries which have problems of democracy, let's say like that. For example, China, Russia, Iran, and many other countries like that, where internet is not free as it should be. So we can confirm that for now, Solar DVPN successfully provides people with the connectivity to the free world for thousands of users simultaneously. So taking back privacy is not only about services that you use, but also about the way how you get connected to the internet itself. And to start there, by taking back our sovereignty online, you should start by making your connection to the internet really private. And to do so, I really encourage all of you guys to get connected to the decentralized VPN network. There is a beautiful app that we have. You can download it by scanning this QR code, and it's available for all platforms on mobile devices and for some certain desktops. We're kicking out our Windows application next month, and we can't wait to see you using it. So yeah, that's pretty much it from my side, and I appreciate, guys, you inviting me there. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Give it up. Give it up once again. Yeah.
Still have him. I want to see if he'll take questions with us. Alexander, you still with us? Did he already sign off?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Are you? You ended a little early, so if you want, we got time for a few questions.
Yeah, definitely.
Anybody here have questions about DVPN? If not, I'll start it off. So, tell me this. I noticed on the Solar DVPN channel recently that there was something about being able to use the DVPN through Telegram. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So what we're working on is to make sure that people are actually able to use the VPN not only by using our own apps on the mobile devices, but also through the messenger. So our idea is to create a bot which is capable of letting you connect to the VPN service so you don't have to install any sort of applications on your device. It's still in progress though, but we believe that we will be able to push it out something like at the end of the next month.
Very cool. So a bot that'll help you use the VPN through Telegram. Where's the project at right now? Can people go ahead and go to the website and purchase or download the DVPN and start using it? Just
yeah,
right
correct. So if you use our link there, you can download our application, or you can go to our website, solarlabs.ee, since we're based in Estonia. And it gives you that beautiful application, which I obviously have on my own device. It lets you choose the certain nodes or any continent. There is thousands of them. 1,000 servers are spinned up on the network, and all of them are run by community. It's not some certain company or something. So you can get connected. For example, I can choose Europe, and there is a bunch of countries which are available out there. For example, I can choose, let's say, I don't know, let it be Switzerland, and there is a node of Switzerland available, and you can choose how much amount of data you would like to buy to use that VPN service from Switzerland. And yeah, that's app works on the pay-as-you-go model, so you don't have to buy some subscription which you probably will not use at some point. You just pay for what you use, pay as you go model we have there. So yeah, you buy some certain amount of data and you consume it. And comparing to others, since it's decentralized and there is an open competition between those people who are on DVPN nodes, the price of the VPN service is cheaper than any other. You can get connected as cheap as just 1 cent per gigabyte, which is nothing like that available on market.
Wow, that's really awesome. So it's a pay-as-you-go model. You can decide how much data you want to pay for and you want to use. Did I have a question here in the audience? You want to come up here real quick? Let's make it really brief. Everybody, John, I know we've got just a couple minutes. We have Higherside up next, who's going to tell us about Dark Fi, but we got time to do this. I want you guys to really get to know these tools so we can use them. Here's a question for you, Alexander.
Hey, thanks, Alexander. My name is Rafael. Great project. I have a quick question for you about the actual privacy and security. From my understanding, people are able to install nodes or instances, and then people route through. So for example, if I install an instance on my internet connection, and then somebody uses that and they do anything illegal, let's say downloads a torrent, which in some countries are illegal, and then my IP provider finds out that it was me, am I responsible for somebody else's actions? How does that work?
Oh, well, that's a great question. Thank you. So it works pretty much the same way as Tor does. So basically, in certain countries, there is such a problem which can get you in trouble if someone uses your IP address to get to the outer web. However, we understand that this is an issue and it should be addressed somehow. So we came up with a solution. And the solution is to have multi-hop connections to the nodes which can be marked as trusted. So for example, if you don't want to let people go to the internet and use your device as an exit point, but you still would like to participate in the Sentinel blockchain, you will be able to spin up your own node and make it one of the nodes in the multi-hop relay network, which will let people go online. So basically, everything that will be sent through your device will be encrypted in and out, and you will be protected from such kind of activity. So it's up to you for decide if you would like to take those risks or not.
All right. Okay, we got one more question here.
Hi, Alex. I'm looking to ditch my Microsoft and go into Linux Mint. Do you support Linux Mint?
Yes, definitely. We recently shipped a great app for both macOS and Linux. We available for all Linux distros, and actually you can download it right away on our own website, which I believe showed there, but I will show it one more time. If you scan this QR code, you can download applications for iOS, Android, iPad, Linux, macOS, and Windows coming up right soon next month. And you can download this application from our website, and you can get connected just within a few taps from there.
Are you on the F-Droid store?
Not yet, but we are looking forward to get there.
Cool.
As for now, we are shipping our app through Google Play and APK file if you would like to download one. We are also going Huawei app gallery to make sure that we are available for this particular sort of devices, because Google Play is obviously not available there. And we would like to push our app to as much markets as possible. So to the end of the year, we will be probably everywhere already.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, brother. Let's give Alexander a warm welcome. A warm round of applause. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Thank you from Texas and Mexico. All right, John, did you want to thank InnoScale maybe for a moment before we get to Higherside?
Yeah, but I want to share something real quick too.
Sure.
We'll share the link for you guys to download that app. And real quick, the benefit of this, why it's so important, there's all sorts of VPN services. It disguises your IP address. So for example, New York State can't connect to certain cryptocurrency applications and exchanges. Well, you can use a centralized VPN service, but who's to know that it's not corrupted? Who's to know the FBI or NSA doesn't have a back door into it? And additionally, when you have a company or a corporation that operates a technological service like a VPN, the government can pressure, lien, coerce, sue, take to court, bring up criminal charges on a company. But the technology we just talked about is decentralized. There is no company, corporation, CEO, board of directors to pressure. So if they ban Bitcoin, you can't get Bitcoin, we're going to shut down all the services because we're rolling out the CBDCs. Maybe they'll pressure the VPN companies to comply, but they can't pressure a company that doesn't exist. That's why this decentralized technology is so important. And real quick before we move on, InnoScale, guys, we're reaching tons of people on this stream. There's a company that hosts servers, right? So you got a website, you got a company, you got all sorts of data applications you want to host in the cloud or on your own dedicated server. This company, InnoScale, they host the Freedom Cells website, they host the Greater Reset website. And at the end of the day, the Greater Reset website, when there's not a stream, it's a static website. But when there's an online stream broadcasting in high definition, it uses an immense amount of bandwidth, which can get very costly. This company, InnoScale, is footing the bill for us to reach the entire world with this information. So just, yeah, give it up.
Hey, and also, John, InnoScale's been hosting my website since 2012 as well for free.
Yeah. So what we like to do with the co-creation model, right, is they support us, so we support them. So if you have website needs for your business, for your organization, whatever it may be, check out innoscale.net. Innoscale.net.
All right. Well, let's go to our next speaker, who was going to be here in person. Unfortunately, flight issues, like many of you had, prevented him from being here in person. But either way, we're very excited to welcome and to hear about this next project. Please welcome Higherside with DarkFi. All right, brother, can you hear us okay? All right, you're good to go.
Hi, does my sound work? I guess so. I can't see my slides. Ah, here they are. Okay, just a second. Okay. All right. I hope you're enjoying the conference. I'm sorry I can't be there, but yeah, some certain circumstances happen, and yeah, it's out of my hands. So I will talk a bit about privacy on the internet and give a high-level overview of some technologies that exist and things that are happening. And I'll try to present two projects and ecosystems that are currently happening. So let's start with a quote from James Comey, who used to be a director of the FBI, and he says, "Unfortunately, the law hasn't kept pace with technology, and this disconnect has created a significant public safety problem. We call it going dark." This means that
Higherside, if you don't mind just letting us know next, so you don't have to type, we'll click the next slide.
Okay, yeah, sure. What this means is technology is evolving, and people and developers and communities are building new tools to avoid state surveillance. And it's been happening since since internet began. We started researching cryptography and encryption and these things because we noticed that other people actually like to spy on people, and we needed ways to protect ourselves. Since 2013, this has very much escalated. We have a huge expanse of surveillance and control apparatus, and it's happening with the NSA, it's happening by various nation states, and it's happening as well by big tech with companies like Google and Facebook and Apple and many of these companies that produce technology. The way they do surveillance is it's Google search histories. So, for example, anytime you use your browser, you don't even have to be logged into your accounts or anything, but the Google system knows your search patterns and they're able to identify you. So when you use your computer in different countries, you can still be tracked through cookies and things. Social networks are something that's also very much not considered a surveillance thing, but many people like to post photos and many people like to keep logged in and following news and things. But then these servers where you log in, they can actually track your locations and your behavior, as well as reading your messages. So when you communicate on things like Instagram or Facebook or Telegram, these messages are not in your ownership. So what happens is any kind of subpoena can come to these by government agencies or someone, and they're able to read your messages, see who you're corresponding with, and you lose this sovereignty. And I think it's very much implied because your friends don't know your passwords. So but in the back of your mind, you think, oh yeah, my messages should be safe and nothing bad will happen. But many people don't consider that there is someone on the other side who is actively reading these, putting them into some algorithm, putting you on blacklists, disallowing you to travel to certain countries and various different things. When it comes to mobile phones, we have this duopoly of Apple and Google. So essentially, we just have two operating systems, which is the iOS and the Android. What they do is they give you all of these neat features. You can catch up with your friends and things. Recently, I saw Apple has this feature where you can track your friends all the time. So you add someone as your friend and you can see their location in the planet in real time. And if you're able to see it, that means they're also able to see it, which is, yeah, getting scary. We also have transparent cryptocurrencies, which I call them transparent. That's what's considered by like Bitcoin and Ethereum. They're transparent in the sense they don't use any kind of encryption, but every operation, anything, any kind of money you send, or any kind of smart contract call you make, it's all public. So there are companies who use this data to track wallets and movement of money. So after that, let's just see like what a high level overview is of these tools we have to protect ourselves and how we can reclaim sovereignty. So the first thing we that is essential, that is used against adversaries, is cryptography. It's used as means of protection against adversaries. So what we do is we encrypt things, and on the other side we also have signatures, which enforce which enforce validity of data, that it has not been tampered with. Combining these, this allows us to build systems of decentralization and anonymity. So next slide. Encryption is used to, as I mentioned, it's used to encrypt data. So that essentially means hiding data. So there needs to be some key that allows it to read. This allows us to secretly share things with other people. So for example, if I know your key, I can encrypt some message and send it to you, and you should be the only person who can actually read it, not somebody else in the middle while it's traveling on the internet or in the post office or various things. websites. You usually access them with the HTTPS thing. That's TLS encryption, and that makes it so nobody in the not your ISP or any kind of data centers in the middle are not able to read what's happening. It's only you and the server who exchange the data. But don't consider this as something completely safe, because we have things like Cloudflare and Infura and these content delivery networks, which act as a middleman between servers and clients. And they say they're doing load balancing, but what the servers do instead is give them these keys. So companies like Cloudflare are able to read all data you're sending through to a website. For instant messaging and messaging in general, there are things like Signal and Session. And they use encryption for messages and calls, unlike Telegram or Instagram or these public kind of messaging systems. And also, I mentioned transparent cryptocurrencies. We have cryptocurrencies like Monero and Zcash, and somebody also recently mentioned Pirate Chain. They all use encryption to hide mounts and senders and recipients of the money that's being sent. But these are all only the beginnings. Now, in the recent things, we have projects that expand this. So it's not just about sending money, it's also about doing smart contracts and able to do programmable finance. So we can actually enforce some rules rather than just being able to send money from A to B and make simple payments. I mentioned signatures as well. So signatures are used to enforce some data hasn't been tampered with. And that means you can prove that you own some key, and if you sign some data or some message with your key, nobody is able to change it, because if it changes, it will not be valid anymore. When we combine signatures with encryption, that means we can authenticate this encryption, and then we're sure that we interact with the correct person. So if I encrypt the message to you, but I also sign it with my key, then you can be sure it's me actually who has sent you the message, not some external person claiming to be me. So cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum use these mechanisms to verify that transactions are correct. So if let's say I have 1 Bitcoin and I want to send it to someone, then I will make the signature to prove that's my Bitcoin and it exists in the state of the blockchain. So without this, the transactions wouldn't be valid. Speaking about recent breakthroughs in cryptography, there's much hype happening in the recent blockchain space, where everyone is talking about zero knowledge proofs. They became much more accessible and much more efficient recently, since a year or less than 2 years. A lot of developers are using it for scaling because they're also useful for this. They allow us to prove knowledge of certain parameters or attributes, but with them, we only reveal the fact that we know them. We don't reveal actual contents. And this gives us new possibilities of encryption and anonymization. But what's also interesting, it's the first time in history we're able to prove computation faster than actually executing it. So in Ethereum, you might have heard about ZK EVMs and things like that. They're not used for privacy. There is no anonymity involved with them, but they're actually used to make things scale much faster, because with zero knowledge proofs, you only need to verify one single proof rather than verifying many transactions, which takes a lot more time. So zero knowledge proofs are used both for encryption and hiding things, but as well as scaling. So next slide. Yes, so continuing on that, we essentially use zero-knowledge proofs to prove knowledge of some data without revealing it. So I can make a mathematical proof that I know certain numbers or some attributes of some coin, and I can publish it, but without revealing these things. So this allows us to build anonymous cryptocurrency. So for example, I can prove that our money exists, but we're also able to hide who is sending and who's receiving it. We're able to hide the amounts that we're sending and also the type of the funds we're sending. So for example, if we are in a network with multiple tokens, so like Bitcoin and Ethereum and whatever kind of token, we're also able to hide all of these attributes, and we just have a single coin, something we call a coin. And using zero-knowledge proofs, we're able to validate that the parameters of this are correct. We can also expand these concepts to smart contracts. So I told Monero and Zcash use zero-knowledge proofs only for hiding the parties they hide the parties in the money exchange, but we can expand this to smart contracts as well, which is something we do in DarkFi. So you're able to anonymize the caller of a smart contract, and you're able to hide metadata that is actually fed as parameters into this smart contract. And going further on, like an overview of decentralization and privacy, I've noticed a lot of people are interested in these topics recently. It's a big boom because people are realizing that the state is not your friend, the big tech is not your friend, and there is a lot of surveillance happening. So people are always looking for ways to escape this and reclaim their life and their freedom. So I mentioned Google is actually tracking you through your browsing history and your patterns of searching. You can use decentralized engines like Cirx, which also use, in the background, they connect to multiple search engines, but it's like a hub which many people use. So you increase your anonymity set by just by searching through this instead of Google, and you'll get the same results. Alternative to Telegram and these messengers, you can use encrypted messaging. So for example, Signal or Session. Signal still needs a phone number to register an account, but it's still, the cryptography is legit and works. And Session uses similar kind of cryptography, but also doesn't need a phone number. And it also as well started using this peer-to-peer network, which makes it a little bit decentralized and also hides your traffic. But going on a higher level, you use these apps, but there is you're still usually stuck in the iOS and the Android paradigm. So there is also a need for alternative phones, and some people are building these things as well. So one of them I mentioned here, and I will talk a bit about it, is Maemo. But there are also other projects like UBports and Postmarket OS, which you might have heard of. And they're all offering alternative operating systems for phones, which help you escape the duopoly of Apple and Google. And also we have anonymous crypto, which currently is happening and in production mode with Monero and Zcash. And soon we will also have DarkFi, which is going to be the dark renaissance. But DarkFi is not just a project, it's an entire ecosystem. So first and foremost, it is a blockchain, but it does money and it does smart contracts. So with smart contracts, we're able to move this much more further than we're able to do with Zcash and Monero. So we have programmable finance, and we can enforce certain rule sets. So for example, we can have token vesting, and we can have various anonymous tokens, not just a single one, like a single base layer token. And also, what I say here in the slide, anonymous ecosystem, what I mean by that is we're able to have anonymous organization and communication. So this gives us peer-to-peer networks for task management, for chatting, and we're able to decentralize these things rather than being dependent on the cloud and a certain server, much like even good projects which are encrypted like Signal, they still depend on central servers. But we try to change this. Can we get next slide? So for the blockchain, we took the option of being private by default, which means privacy is enforced from the moment you're using it. It's not opt-in like many other things, and it's also kind of difficult to opt out as well. But it's a possibility. So if you need to, for some reason, if you need to de-anonymize yourself, you should be able to do it, but I also don't just recommend it. You should find ways to not end up in this kind of situation. Anonymous payments means that both the senders and the recipients are hidden from the public, and also the amounts and the types of tokens being sent are hidden from the public. Anonymous contracts means that participants who are, let's say, part of a DAO and do voting, it means they're anonymous as well. So it's a very different paradigm from transparent blockchains, where you can just feed the entire data set into an AI and it will figure out, oh yeah, this person and this wallet is sending this much money every day, and these people in these parts of the world are part of some DAO. We are able to hide all of this using technology like zero-knowledge proofs. And when I mentioned the anonymous ecosystem, this means we're building decentralized and anonymous messaging, and also task management and file storage, anything that can be part of a peer-to-peer network and doesn't have to depend on cloud-based systems. So when it comes to messaging, it's an old IRC protocol built in the 80s, but we expanded it with encryption and new technologies. So we're able to encrypt groups, we're able to encrypt direct messages, and it's as good as Signal when it comes to encryption. It's also completely anonymous, which means there is no concept of accounts or phone numbers or something like that. You just have nicknames and keys. So you also have plausible deniability, and that means anybody can also impersonate anyone else, and you can only prove that it's actually you by making a signature or revealing a certain attribute. So that means as long as you don't do it, you always have plausible deniability about writing something or sharing some files. And there is also spam protection using zero-knowledge proof techniques. So we're able to protect the network against spam, but we also do not de-anonymize the users who are doing the spam. But they need to solve certain puzzles or something so they can actually post a message if they begin spamming the network. We have a tool called TAU, T-A-U. It's used for task management. So much like if there are any developers, people often use GitHub for GitHub issues, or there are projects using Jira and things like that for task management. We built these also in a peer-to-peer fashion. So this allows you to anonymously organize yourself. It's peer-to-peer, which means it's censorship resistant. It allows you to host your files on your own nodes, and nobody can actually delete them. It's also fully encrypted and permissioned. By permissioned, I mean that you can make groups. So people in a certain group can share an access key, and only them are able actually to see the tasks inside the group. So everyone is using the same network, but not everyone is able to see what certain groups are doing. So you can share that. You can choose who you share these things with. And decentralized file storage is also a peer-to-peer system where people can store files like NFT metadata or whistleblowing documents, anything that's actually necessary to stay online and not be deleted by some agency or government. So about DarkFi, we have all of the technology working, currently in the final testing phases. Anonymous swaps and DAOs and payments, if you're technically knowledgeable enough, you can already use them. We will have a public testnet announced very soon as well. Our public dev chat, we have a public developer chat, and we also do meetings every Monday. So if you're interested in anything, you're very free to come and talk with us, and you can also put in your own topics if there's anything you like to discuss. And we plan to be production ready and go to the market by end of this year. Hopefully everything goes well. Okay, next slide. Yes, so I also mentioned alternative phones and operating systems. That is something, there is a small team. It's kind of a silent revolution happening in Europe. It's an alternative mobile OS, which is in no way similar to Android or Google. It's completely different. It used to be built by Nokia in 2009, but since the last 5 years or so, there's a small community that revived it and is actually updating it, and it's getting it to work well. And it's for some it's a hobby project, for some it's a very serious hobby project, but it's still a public thing, and it's not funded by corporations. Next slide. It's being built with free and open source software, and since Nokia built it in 2009, there were a lot of parts also that were proprietary and closed source, but the community has worked on it a lot and built ways to reverse engineer a lot of these proprietary counterparts, and some of them have also just been replaced with open source code. And the base system is quite minimal, which means you are actually the owner of your data and hardware, not unlike an Apple phone where it's very difficult to disable things, or an Android phone which by default comes with all the Google services which track you and share your data with the Google company. Some people try to replace the Androids with things like Lineage OS or Graphene and things like that, but I think it's still just it's a valid thing, but it's still not the best choice of actually claiming it. And you're able to choose with Maemo, you're able to choose what runs and what you want to use. So you start with a very minimal base, and then you pick the apps. Oh yeah, do I want GPS support? Yes, I will install it. Do I want phone calls? Yes, I will install it. And there is nothing that actually makes you use you opt into any kind of operation on the phone. The current state of it is there are working phone calls and working messaging like SMS and also instant messaging. There's working data, so you can use SIM cards to access the internet. It's not installable on all modern phones. It's more built for older and recyclable phones, which also give you interesting features like changing the IMEI number, and that's become very difficult on recent phones as well. So some of them are Motorola Droid 4, which is a phone from 2013, and it's still performing very well. So in contrast to many Android phones, you actually get a battery life of 3 or 4 days. And there's also a community kind of effort called Pine64. They build various tablets and phones based on open source hardware, and one of them is the Pine phone as well. So you can you're able to buy a Pine phone for $100, and you're able to use an alternative mobile OS. Currently, it's in the beta stage, and it's, as I mentioned, it's a very small community. So developers and any kind of funding are welcome. Mostly we got funding from EU projects and privacy-oriented funds that actually want and need an alternative to Google and Apple. So yeah, it's happening, and I'm happy about it. And yeah, thank you for. I'm sorry I can't be there. Maybe the talk would have been more fun if I was there in person, but hopefully you enjoyed a little bit and makes you look these up. You can contact me at any point online. You'll find me easily. If you actually have questions and things, feel free. I will do my best to answer them. Have a great conference.
Yeah, man, give it up for him. Great work. Yep, I think it's amazing how privacy technologies are now taking the center stage. And there's this race to completely replace Google and Apple off of our phones and devices. You know, there's only a handful of companies. And we are going to replace all of these systems like Presearch was mentioning. And it's really cool that he mentioned the MauMoLess project. That looks like it's going to work across a lot of devices, but I'm ready to go right now. And I know some other speakers have mentioned de-Googled phones, and I want to mention Above Phone, which is it's already a complete privacy phone solution. Thank you. Some love for Above Phone right there. And this is already here. This is already ready for you to use. Let's make it faster. You know, I know we all have things that we're working on. So really, we're aiming to give you a fully completed product with this messaging. And Presearch, if you're still listening, I think you should look into XMPP, my friend, because that is way better than U.S. government-funded Signal. So I just wanted to call that out. Right. And yeah, and so check out abovephone.com if you want more info. I think it's super important to give back to these open source projects and developers. And part of what we're doing is we're pledging 5% of our profits and putting it back towards the free and open source community. We're calling this Above Fund. I haven't publicized this at all, but now we're in the space where we can give back. And so projects like Presearch, it's so important to give back to them. Yeah, and I think we are going to do another ad read. So let's bring on Texas. Oh, so I'm going to introduce another special speaker. This man has been one of the disinformation dozen, so you know he's speaking the truth, a good friend of ours and in the community, and he has the guts to go out and take on the likes of YouTube. He created this platform for conscious creators this past year called Unite Live. I was so honored to have been invited into the first platform. And oh man, they did such an amazing job putting it together. It has all the features a content creator would need. That is unite.live. Check that out right now. And of course, let's hear all about it from Sarah.
Hi, everyone. Sayer G here, and I'm so excited to be part of this event. I have so much respect for Derek Bros and his colleagues and all the participants in this event, including those listening, because we are creating this new, more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible, which is the title of my dear friend Charles Eisenstein's book, and one of the few people that I know stood up in the past few years to speak truthfully about what he saw unfolding before his eyes. I also was one of those that was labeled a Disinfo Dozen member for standing strong in my beliefs and being willing to share them openly. As a result, there was a lot of pushback and a lot of defamation and attacks, and ultimately a lot of deplatforming. And being at the tip of the spear, so to speak, in 2020, I reported on an FDA presentation which was looking at post-marketing surveillance signals they would be looking for after they rolled out the mRNA jabs. In that document, they listed a number of life-threatening conditions that they were expecting would emerge after the rollout. This was a public presentation, actually. One of those unfortunate outcomes was death. And so in that window, I, the founder of GreenMed Info, was targeted as a spreader of misinformation that was killing people. And as a result, over 2 million of our loyal followers across conventional social media outlets were suddenly removed from us. And we were characterized the world over as being really bad people that should probably be, reprimanded and maybe even sued for wrongful death. There was actually a lawsuit that at one point they were going to try to go ahead and put out there to intimidate others. And it reminded me of what in the Middle Ages was often a very powerful spectacle, which was the punishment of an individual in a very public way. Because what it does is it does more than just take care of that individual that might be speaking against the orthodox, but it sends a signal of terror to everyone else. Do not do what they're doing. Do not speak up about your personal opinion, for example, on your medical beliefs. And as these constitutional rights were stripped from us, we realized that we were all dependent on what are essentially highly toxic tech platforms, some of which have been even defined in testimony as being weapons-grade psychological weapons, basically. And so that's what tech has become. And yet it's also one of the most powerful ways to connect. Look at how we're doing this now. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? So we are able to basically be participants in a global form of communication and connection. The problem, of course, as we've seen, is if you say the wrong thing, according to the powers that be, then your rights get stripped from you. And it doesn't just stop with communicating your opinions. It actually ties into, as we all know, a social credit system that is being rolled out in places like China and certain trials in various countries that we saw with the vaccine passport systems. And I personally have been, for example, targeted, so I can't use Venmo. My child has an entrepreneurial fair for her school. Everyone uses Venmo, and I wasn't able to buy anything at it, for example. So it's a very real thing that some of us have been experiencing as what are essentially political dissidents for sharing our beliefs. That said, a lot of beautiful things happened in this window. And one of the most beautiful things was that we all realized that sovereignty isn't just a catch-all phrase for wanting to take control of our lives, but it's essential for our well-being, and that we really can't exempt ourselves from some of the political machinations that are occurring. I also am the co-founder of a nonprofit organization named Stand for Health Freedom, and we're very proud of our ability to provide tech to the public so that they can directly communicate with their elected officials and make an impact. And we have seen some pretty profound reversals of legislation intent at stripping your right to choose what happens to your body. So there are ways that we can even take advantage of still existing conventional tools of empowerment. That said, what I had to do in this window, after multiple attempts at taking away my right to communicate, was to create my own tech with, thank God, the people that came into my life who shared values with me and that believe that we should have the right to speak freely. We should have the right to communicate our medical beliefs and share information amongst one another. And so that's, again, why this event is so powerful. And everyone that's part of this, you are creating this new world that I'm excited to live in, and I'm excited to dedicate my life to supporting you with what you need in order to accomplish that. And so in my own experience, one of the more powerful things was having all of the social media outlets that we'd worked on over probably about 12 years, connecting with the people that wanted our information, suddenly just pulled out from under us. The rug was pulled. And so we had to make a decision. Do we just lick our wounds and just go off and live in a commune somewhere in the jungle? I legitimately considered that option. And I realized, as I think all of you do realize, that if you don't take a stand where you are, and this is true for life generally, wherever you go, there you are, you're going to have to work with, your challenges. Okay. So that's what we decided to do. People in my life that share certain beliefs around your right to speak freely, we decided we're just going to dig in and create technology that will enable us to disintermediate ourselves from that system, which centralizes power, centralizes control, and ultimately has a monopoly on violence, which is not really a good thing. And so we really want to remove all those darker elements from the peer-to-peer interactions that we have. And there are different projects that are doing this. In fact, one of the projects I'm most excited about communicating has nothing to do with my own personal work, other than I've donated some value to them, and I encourage you to do the same. It's called Cordal.org. You go there. I'll actually show you really quick here, sharing my screen. I want everyone to know about this amazing project because it gives me hope, like true hope, not hopium, that the world is a beautiful place and that we can together work on creating that more beautiful place. So in this case, you can go to Cordal.org, that's QORTAL.org, and you'll find that they have done an incredible job of pulling all the middlemen out of the equation when it comes to peer-to-peer transfer of information as well as value, which means that, yes, they have a endogenous coin, if you will, for their system that is shared among the community, potlatch style. Anyone who participates by running a node actually gets a share of that. And it's a service coin. It's not just something that you store value in like Bitcoin, sort of a store of value, but it's something that's useful within the system. They've done an incredible job of building a decentralized exchange within the node. So you don't have to go ahead and risk putting, your value up on an exchange that is then going to collapse and take it away from you. Self-custody and sovereignty is extremely important. They've removed the need for, things like domain name server system, so you can register your own name on their system. And there's even backup plans. For example, if there ever is a infodemic and they run some type of exercise where they say, well, sorry, internet's down, can't access anything, there's a way to run a mesh network with the existing structure of Cordal and eventually find a way almost to grow a mycelium of independence that we can all participate in. So I highly encourage you to check out Cordal. I love some of the co-founders, Jason Crow and Mike Winner from Alphabetic, amazing individuals. And if I've just shared that with you, I feel I have succeeded because there are simply not enough people that know about this amazing project. Because, folks, if you create a system that takes away, the dependency on that middleman, let's say the government decides that they're going to put the kill switch on the internet, and you've created an alternative where you can still use basically an internet, they might not do that thing. So that's the beauty of us creating solutions to get ahead of the curve, so that a lot of the timelines that I think you've all visualized along with, I love to reference what Orwell said, that if you want to, and I'm paraphrasing, to see the future, think about a boot stomping on a human face forever. I think some of us have touched that dark place, myself included. Let me show you a quick example of when the president himself decided to say that I and 11 others on this list are killers. I was like, really? This kind of dark future where you're just sharing an opinion and you're being called out by the president of the United States for being essentially a killer, happen to people like us.
That's what the article said. So I was asked that question about what do I think is happening? Facebook isn't killing people. These 12 people are out there giving misinformation. Anyone listening to it is getting hurt by it.
So that was an example. I was like basically shocked that this was happening. And yet it was a sign that fundamentally you and I are making a difference. And it's not really us so much. It's not the ego you attach to that. It's the internet has made it such that you might have an account on Instagram, for example, and have 1 million followers and have more influence there than the New York Times. That is why we are seeing what we're seeing, in my opinion, is that the so-called pandemic button was pushed because the power was no longer being effectively centralized. People were no longer being effectively controlled in their speech. And that was something that obviously was revealed recently by my colleague, Bobby Kennedy Jr., who went ahead and did a lawsuit with others named on this list against the Trusted News Initiative, which is something that is involved in shutting down speech among everyday people like yourself. Because when you have social media in its original inception, if you share something and people genuinely like it, and the algorithms aren't manipulating that interaction, it can go viral. It can be shared because people love to share. We're decent human beings, right? That when you are given something, you want to give back. That's sometimes called an equity imbalance. And it's a reciprocity that motivates us to be even more human and to share the abundance. It's just the basic love principle of the universe, as well as the fact that there is a abundance in everything. Scarcity is what is required to create the mechanism of perceived, division and conflict, right? Because you need scarcity to make people think that there's just not enough. So you got to control them. And so obviously this other view is the kind of technology that I want to, co-create and bring into the world. So examples like Biden and about 10,000 other mainstream articles publishing this absolutely misinformation about individuals like myself in that window preceding the Pentagon, rollout of the warp speed agenda. That was an example of them trying this trick to make it seem as if it was only a few bad apples, right, that are causing mayhem, lying to the public. They're really psychopathic, just want to profit off people's demise because they're not getting these great vaccines. That whole narrative was actually working for a while. And now we see that there are probably, in my opinion, 2 orders of magnitude, or maybe higher, people that see what happened and saw the lies and now are not going to take the bait again. And that's super encouraging. I think people see very clearly what happened now. And now it's not on people like myself to go ahead and raise a red flag. It's ultimately tons of people. We're talking about hundreds of millions of people that now see the light. As far as what the problem is and the real agendas are, so-called conspiracy theorists are pattern recognizers, right? They connect dots, and that's not supposed to be allowed. But that is the type of person that is at a conference like this, that's participating in creating solutions. And that's what the beauty of the situation is that now we've seen that dark timeline and all the possibilities of us being in a permanent lockdown situation. We're in our digital gulags and, maybe we have a job, working at Amazon with a prosthetic, VR unit, turning us practically into cyborg. And that's the fourth industrial revolution that they're trying to roll out, right? Where we are just pretty much almost not human anymore. But the alternative, which I call the angelic version of the fourth industrial revolution, is being created right now. Like I said, if you look at Cordal.org, you'll find it's highly compelling. And then there's also what I had to create for myself, which was Unite. Unite is actually a project that started out with a impulse of necessity. They're snuffing us out online. They're shutting us down. They're intimidating us. They're shutting down my ability to even, give and receive value. So let's create something for ourselves. Let's get our own servers. Let's make sure the data is protected and disintermediated from the big tech stack, all of which is contaminated. Let's put all of our energy, time, resources into creating the thing that we're so upset doesn't exist, or worse, has gone ahead and captured all of our data, who's doing things like spying on us with our consent. Or, for example, in the window of the declared pandemic, what did we see? We saw people posting to Facebook that, oh, they might go to a protest in Australia and then end up getting police knocking on their doors and then violating them by going inside and arresting them. I mean, this is all written now. We all see how it works. And the more we participate and give our life energy to those platforms, the more we're contributing to our own demise. It's obvious. So what do? We complain? Or like I said, we go to a commune and just get off the grid and hope that the rest of the world is fine? That's not going to work either. We have to stand where we are, and we need to put our energy and efforts towards the things we believe in. One of the things I think you can identify with in this really challenging past few years has been that you have probably come to terms with things within yourself that if you were just in your everyday world, just moving freely, wouldn't have been as powerful to come to terms with. And also in that process of going within, many of us discovered the true value, the true gifts that we are given. Because every human has a unique gift that is here, that is irreplaceable, that we can share with others. And that is the basis to all sacred economy, is the sharing of gifts and the fair exchange of gifts, the free exchange of gifts. And that's the beauty of what's happening right now, is that we are finally seeing that we are the first tier money, right? The most original form of value creation is just our very existence. Now, I spent a lot of time working on a book called Regenerate, where in chapter 3, I go into the new biophysics of energy synthesis. And I talk about how it is a miracle when you look at what a mitochondrion actually does within the cell. Now, keep in mind, there are billions and billions of these power centers that have a huge amount of energy available to each mitochondrion. And it's as if all that we learned about our body needing to, eat calories to produce energy by burning it as fuel, it's all based on a very shallow understanding of the miracle that's actually happening, which is our body transduces from the ether. It gets energy and information, and it's nearly limitless. And that explains the, anomalous cases of people that live off of air, prana, the breatharianism. It could happen maybe 1 in a couple million, but the fact that our physiology allows that is possible for anyone. That is a profound fact, as it teaches us about who we really are and the nature of the universe, which is that it's infinitely abundant. If we just allow it to be, a lot of it has to be getting out of our own way. All the limitations that we put on ourselves, others, scarcity consciousness, that's what we're really letting go of. And if we do that, then we start to realize that we have this massive abundance. And that is the thing that I chose to do, is that I had every reason, as you can see, thinking I was being targeted by my own government. And I think many of us have felt that in this window, simply for sharing a meme, say, on a social media outlet. But instead of just kind of like contracting and getting afraid about the situation, I decided to put my energy into the solution. And Unite is what was born from that effort. I can't take credit for the entire thing, but it's something that I put a lot of energy and time into, and it's something I cannot wait to share with you. So let me go ahead and play just this short trailer.
Values guide our thoughts, feelings, and actions, creating our reality. When we share these values in common with others, and then set an intention to bring those values into our daily lives, true healing, magic, and miracles happen. This is how we co-create a more beautiful, inspiring, loving world and community we all want to live in. With ongoing censorship and countless attacks on our freedom of speech, we decided to create a secure, worldwide multimedia platform dedicated to conscious creators and their communities, designed to support the divine right and gift of self-expression. Welcome to Unite. It's your network. Customize your network to offer your community a variety of channels designed to educate, entertain, and enlighten, designed to support and monetize live and video streaming content. It's your channel. With simple setup, customizable design, and instant replays, Unite.live offers seamless live streams. Design your content to match your network and give your channel a unique look. Customize and build a product store that matches your content and gives your community access to your goods and services. With direct commenting, live chat, email campaigns, and social media integration, engage your audience using Unite's interactive community. And keep a lookout for our new and upcoming social media app, which will give users the ability to share photos and video while also displaying your brand's products and services. Publish your work and give your audience something to read by customizing a unique article or daily blog. Share ebooks and other documents to help support your brand and content. Monetize your passion. These are your talents, your skills, your gifts, your mission. Enable subscriptions and easily build your membership. Offer your community exclusive access to content with pay-per-view. And don't forget to customize your product store. It's your network, it's your channel, it's your voice. It's you. Welcome to Unite.
Well, there's the vision, and we have been making a lot of progress on this platform. So it's a multimedia platform. And one of the things it has built into it, for example, is the ability to publish articles. So it's not just video. It also has the ability to generate new leads. And that's something we're rolling out very soon. We have an entire social app that's already mapped out. We're working on getting that rolled out here this year. And basically, what we want is for this not to be this massive, place where anybody just goes on there and posts anything. It's just for people that are called to be part of creating this new, social media, internet that we all want. And so it's going to take some effort. I know I put a ton of energy into it, and I do not regret that, because it takes really hard work, I think, to do pretty much anything of value. At least that's my experience. I'd love for it to be easier. But we are inviting others to participate. There is a free trial available, and we are rolling out an even more attractive, frictionless offer for anyone that wants to try out the entire suite of features. So just stand by, wait for that, because it's coming very soon. And then we also really want those who are part of the Greater Reset to become part of this community. And one of the beautiful things is that you don't have to pay anything to go ahead and set a profile up. You can put all your conventional social media links into your profile. There's an About Us. You can link to your website, upload a picture if you feel comfortable, and start engaging and interacting. We have some incredible brands here. We have Ramiro, of course, from Above Phone. We have Mike Winner, Alex Zex. The Way Forward is probably our most watched podcast right now, just because he puts so much energy into it. But we are really looking forward to inviting all you other amazing people on board. And ultimately, I'll just end by saying that although this has been an extremely challenging period for, I think, most of us, it's been also the most growth that I've ever experienced in just 3 years. And I think that that is really what is at stake here, is that anything we experience, we have a choice to turn it into something that's going to make us stronger, to give us more creativity, expand our imagination, or we can contract into trauma. And that is unfortunately how a lot of the agendas that have stolen, literally years of our lives of our children, really, there's been a lot of pain and suffering that has happened. That agenda depends on people maintaining their trauma defenses and not going deeper into their self-love process, for example. Like we have the Nurture Network is about to come on board. I personally use one of the founders as my self-love coach, because self-love is the basis for how we heal the entire world. There is a quote actually attributed to Buddha regarding that no one deserves love more than you, meaning we do a lot to try to help others, but sometimes it's not really coming from a full well. And ultimately, there's resentment attached to it, things that just aren't of high integrity. I believe that the number one mandate we have is to love ourselves fully, accept ourselves fully. And that's the kind of people that we are bringing together in events like this, because we're also the ones that are going to have the energy, the resilience to be able to deal with what's coming and also focus on the solutions themselves. So I really hope that that resonates with you. I invite you again, please look at Cordal.org. We are totally twin projects. We're not decentralized like them yet. We're looking at some interoperability, but you also have the transition, which I believe we represent what I would call Web 2.5. We're in between Web 2 and Web 3. And I hope that we will empower you, give you the tools that you need to go ahead and, yeah, basically make a living doing what you love. And that's ultimately what I think we all want to do. So thank you again for watching my presentation. Once again, Derek Bros, everybody who's part of this event, it's an incredible thing that you have done. And it's given us all hope, motivation, inspiration. And I know that together we rise. That's our motto at Unite. Thanks so much.
Are you searching for the truth online? Do you want to avoid tracking and advertising by big tech search engines? Now you can search for truth with Presearch. Presearch is the world's first decentralized search engine. When you search with Presearch, your searches are anonymized and routed through a network of like-minded volunteers. You can search over 100 different sources of info without giving away your personal identity. You can even earn while you search. You'll receive pre-tokens for every search you make. Presearch is building a parallel economy with keyword staking. Stake pre-tokens on a specific keyword. Now your business will show up when people search for that keyword. Search and sign up now at Presearch.com. It's free. Get more info and even run a node on the network at Presearch.io.
I'm going all the way up. I'm going all the way up. I'm letting go in my heart of everything that holds me down. No, no. Look up to the sky and I got this relief inside, and there's no need to hide. I'm going all the way up. I'm going all the way up. I'm letting go in my heart of everything that holds me down. No, no.
Every aspect of our lives is connected to the internet, and this makes us vulnerable in ways we don't even realize. Big Tech and Big Brother are watching and recording everything you do online without your knowledge or consent, and they use this information against you. Every year, hackers and scammers steal billions of dollars from good people like you and me, and they will take every cent that you own if they can. Online privacy and security is the issue of our time. It is vital that you learn how to protect yourself. This is modern day self-defense. Hi, my name is Glenn Meter, and I created the Privacy Action Plan with one core goal: to help the average non-techie person reclaim their online privacy and security in a way that is not overwhelming. We break each step down into bite-sized pieces. We explain why each step is important. We have a wonderful community. We have an A+ rating from the BBB, and we have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code GREATERRESET and receive a 40% discount on our lifetime membership. Thank you.
All of our sponsors and everybody who's been helping make this happen. And to Sire G. Sire really wanted to be here with us, either in Texas and Mexico, but couldn't make it work. We're going to make sure he's in person in one of the locations next year. So how you doing, John?
I'm good. Life's good. I just want to say 40% off. Glenn Meter, nice generous discount there. Take advantage of that. We promoted that to Live Free Academy a while back. A lot of people hopped on board, and I've heard nothing but good things. So like I said, I think his real unique selling proposition is that he makes things really, really simple for those of you that are struggling. A lot of the stuff that we're promoting today is like, wow, this is advanced stuff. I want to make the point that back to echo this. Can I get everybody's attention, please? back to echo this anti-fragile. Can I get your attention? Everybody's attention, please. Excuse me, you know, when people are talking in the audience, it kind of throws off the people on stage's brain a little bit. I got the neurons firing, but woo. So I want to make a really important point here, because there's a lot of technology in this world that's being utilized to control people, track, and surveil. And when you couple that with the social credit score system, and when you couple that with the control of people's movement that comes with this vaccine passport, which will expand into a carbon passport. The World Economic Forum has MyPass, and they're pushing this concept of a personal carbon allowance. We are entering some very, very scary times. Well, we're faced with two choices right now. Do we freak out? Do we get reactionary? Do we become overwhelmed, anxious, and scared? All of those things lead to inaction. Or do we step into a place of anti-fragility? Because we have problems, we have adversity, we're facing some very difficult challenges, but the empowered people that we are going to make the choice to leverage these challenges in order to pursue decentralized and privacy-based technology. So just as I shared before, I shared my talk last night, we should be grateful that we have been given the gift of an accelerated agenda towards freedom, because they are forcing our hand, and this is the stuff that we should be doing anyway.
Absolutely. John, make some noise for being pushed to do what we need to do, right? Unfortunately, a lot of us silly humans, we don't act until, well, we feel threatened. How many people knew what was going on before COVID but didn't do anything until COVID? Or maybe now you got a little more serious, right? Yep. Let's not let that happen with the next thing. Let's be proactive. Let's be ahead of the game. Be forward thinking. And for those of you, I know we had sort of a slow trickle in this morning, and I played a video from the World Economic Forum. Maybe we'll play it later. But I just wanted to contrast and give you guys an example of why we're talking about technology. There's so many people in our communities that I think are just terrified of everything technology. Meanwhile, they got Facebook, WhatsApp, Gmail, and everything else, but they don't want to learn about decentralized tools. Like, it's all digital, it's all bad. There may come a time where that is true. As this agenda progresses, who knows? We may get to a point where there's literally no way to use digital tools to, you know, and do it in a safe way. We're not there yet, though. There are people like Ramiro, like Parasite, like Alexander, like Glenn, Sayer, and others that we're going to hear from today who are really trying to work on the next generation of decentralized distributed technology. And until you hear about the above phone or the Start 9 phone or the coming above laptop, then you don't even know there's an option, right? Because you go to Best Buy or Target or wherever you shop at, and all you got is Microsoft, Apple, etc. So you have to go out of your way to find these tools. I just want to make that clear. And again, this week, while we're talking about taking back our tech, the World Economic Forum this week had a talk discussing wearables that can read your thoughts, that can detect your password and your PIN, and that these are going to be things that are going to be coming out. And this is why we need to be skeptical of technology, but also use it where we can. For example, you could argue the Fitbit, people tracking their heart rate and their steps, is priming people to the next stage of, oh, well, I'm already wearing this. Why not just take the next wearable? And also on that thing, we've had some people, John, you'll appreciate this. We've had some people today a little upset because we're double checking wristbands just to make sure we can actually pay for the beautiful venue here. You guys enjoying this venue? Thank you for that. We understand, though, there's some people with frustrations about checking wristbands. So next year, we're just going straight implants. We won't check any wristbands. Just like, it's all good, right? Just save the whole problem. It's convenient.
Elon Musk will sponsor. We'll all have Neuralinks next year.
All right. Hopefully not for Greater Reset 5. I just wanted to add on to that one thing. Technology is becoming so important, and it wasn't coming down to Mexico really made me aware of how much power Facebook has outside of the US, because every business on here is on WhatsApp. How much trust are we really giving to WhatsApp? And then, you go in to get a SIM card at one of these little tiendas and you see that, and sin limits, without limits. But then you look at the apps, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Snapchat, all of these big tech data surveillance firms from the United States. And how are these deals made in the background, right? That we're giving them free data and then not actually giving the rest of the data to Mexicans so they can access the internet as they please. So that's just for the Mexican audience. I want to point that out. That's something we should be raising awareness about, trying to get people to divest away from WhatsApp and maybe perhaps use something like XMPP, right? You can use that already. It's free for people to use. It actually is end-to-end encrypted, and you can run it yourself. And I just wanted to add on a little bit because it's really hard. You know, we're not all tech experts. You know, there's even tech experts, they have, when they hear from other people, they find that they're missing out on a lot of information. So a really good way to validate the technology you're using is, one, look at who built it. Look at the people who built it. I mentioned Signal earlier. It was funded by a nonprofit that is directly funded by the US Department of Media, right? So you need to be cognizant enough and aware enough to see if there's something, something hiding underneath the surface. One of the most popular privacy tools in use today, Tor, as I'm sure we're going to hear about later on today, was developed by the US Navy, has continued to be funded by the US Department of Media and other organizations, and is used by the US government. So you really have to ask yourself, is this technology for the people, or is there another purpose to try and get a crowd onto a privacy tool so that they can actually watch you? So I'll let you make your own judgments on that, and definitely always do your own research. Yeah, so I think that's everything I got for today. John, did you want to say something else before we go to lunch?
We got a question on YouTube.
Taking questions.
We got a question on YouTube about above phone, Mr. Ramiro. If you'll bring Ramiro right back up. Somebody asked, can I use the above phone and keep my phone number? I've had the same phone number for 23 years.
Yeah, well, that's the awesome thing about the above phone and de-Googled operating systems like Graphene OS is you can take your SIM card from any country in the world and just pop that sucker in, and you've ported over your number to another phone, right? So yes, the short answer is yes. Take your existing SIM card and put it into the above phone. We know that calls and texts are not private due to US law, CALEA, passed in 1994, that the government has to have access to any phone calls and text messages, but you can use that. And I feel like in the upcoming years, we're going to see the effects of the government having access to our phone calls and texts, and we will migrate to encrypted communications like XMPP, like Session, and some other amazing projects mentioned today.
Right on. Thanks, Ramiro. Okay, I got something to say about technology.
Hit it, John. Take me off.
Take him off. There he goes. Okay, I just wanted to keep him up there because he's looking so sharp today, that Ramiro. All right. So this World Economic Forum thing that Derek was referencing, we played the video before, wearable devices that can read your thoughts. Can you imagine that in conjunction with social credit scores? That's an environment where you can't even question the authority of those in power. That is a very frightening prospect. One thing about the Great Reset agenda, a lot of this is going to be more powerful and more controlling over people when they live in the city. The smart city agenda. That's where you got the 5G interconnected technology that ties in with the wearable devices, that ties in with all that crazy stuff. And so I want to encourage people to get the heck out of the city into the country, because the Great Reset, the World Economic Forum, they put out this article. Maybe you saw it. They since scrubbed it from their website, but it's still available on Forbes. And the title, I'm sure you guys remember this one, "The Year is 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and couldn't be happier." Doesn't sound incredible? That's the future I want, right? Anyway, later on in that article, she says, but what I'm really concerned about are the people that live outside the city. They lead different kinds of lives. They rejected all of the robots when they took over our jobs. They live in little self-supplying communities and 19th century villages. I mean, I read that and I'm like, that's our plan, right? That's what the whole Exit and Build Land Summit thing was all about. The point I'm trying to make is it's very likely that, in my view, it would take a mass movement to not have this happen, but it's very likely, in my view, that a good chunk of the world population is going to go along with this agenda. So we have to do everything we can to carve out our piece, our place, our space, our community outside of their control grid. And if enough of us do it, I feel confident that we can do so living in peace. Perhaps that article was just a recognition that some people aren't going to go along. The big challenge, of course, is that we'll be bullhorning from our beautiful country with permaculture farms and happy, healthy children. You guys could have this too. Just escape the prison city. So that's one piece. I want to talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. earlier in the Greater Reset Activation community chat on Telegram, there were some folks that were asking some questions. They were very honest questions. How many people are following our Telegram channel? All right. How many people do not have Telegram? Okay. I would highly encourage, not the perfect app. You can have encryption from one person to one person, although Ramiro will probably pick it apart into 1,000 pieces. He has very high standards for the technology, as he should. But it's a wonderful tool to connect with people within this community. There's a lot of freedom people. And Travis Sutherland, is that your last name, Travis? Travis was doing a workshop. He's doing one every day from 5 to 6 in the hallway. He'll help you install Telegram. It's a messaging app. We're very active there. The Freedom Cell Network is very active there. Nonetheless, there were some folks asking some questions about Bitcoin. And so they're like, why are you guys talking about Bitcoin? I guess people think like it's like a get rich thing. There are a lot of greedy people. They look at Bitcoin as number go up, make me money, la, 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 which may have been the case early on, but in large part, it's a nice, long, slow, gradual means of protecting and maybe slowly but subtly building wealth. But more than that, it's a tool to help us circumvent their controls. So I just want to clear up a couple misconceptions about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general, because I strongly believe that people within our community are doing themselves a great disservice by rejecting Bitcoin and certain cryptocurrency technology. They falsely believe, now just real quick, I don't exactly know who created Bitcoin, but I have a pretty good idea of what type of group it may have been. But a lot of people falsely believe, just to roll that back, be wary of people that speak in absolutes, because at the end of the day, there's really no way to know unless you're Satoshi Nakamoto. So I always honor people that are humble enough to be like, well, honestly, I don't know, but I got a pretty damn good feeling, right? Just throwing that out there. A lot of people falsely believe, in my opinion, that Bitcoin was created by the powers that wish they were. They'll point to this NSA paper on digital currencies written in the late 90s. But if you actually understand Bitcoin, blockchain technology, proof of work, which is the consensus mechanism, how you verify transactions, what was written in that 1996 or whatever paper is very different than Bitcoin, okay? If you actually understand the history of this group of people called the cypherpunks, as the internet came into being in the 90s, there was a group of people, internet geeks, computer nerds, technologists, they wanted to create sovereign money, meaning money outside of the government's control for people to use on the internet. They had all sorts of attempts at creating this sovereign money, but they kept running into two problems. One of them was double spending. How can we create a digital money that can't be copied? You guys know you got the text file or the picture, you just right click, and then you go to copy, duplicate, and now all of a sudden you have another digital file. It's just a bunch of ones and zeros. And on that note, when I teach people about Bitcoin, there's some folks, when you say to copy or copy the address and paste, there's some people that don't know how to copy and paste on a computer. So I just want to encourage everybody that's in the Bitcoin space, that's evangelizing, let's be very aware of the audience we're speaking to and make sure that we're explaining every single thing that we can, because we may assume that people know how to copy and paste, but not everybody does, and that's okay. So there was folks trying to figure this out, and they ran into this problem of double spending. The other problem was there was something called BitGold, and it was like, you can take gold, you can deposit it over here, you can take gold and deposit it over here, and then these two institutions can send value back and forth, and it's backed up by the gold, okay? But the problem was, I think it was called e-gold. The problem was the federal government didn't like it because people were using that service to launder money. Probably weren't even really doing anything that unethical, but the government said people are using that for no purposes, money laundering, this and that. So we are going to prosecute the creator of this protocol. Two problems: double spending, copying a digital thing. The other problem was decentralization. So Satoshi Nakamoto, he, she, they, or them, it's my belief, Satoshi Nakamoto rose out of this movement of cypherpunks because Bitcoin technology utilizes different little bits and pieces, pun intended, of these different attempts to create digital money. That is far more likely than the government, the New World Order, having created it. And a lot of people just aren't aware, and that's okay. There are very many misunderstandings about Bitcoin. Another one is, somebody asked today, I just want to address that, can you get it without a bank? Of course you can. Two people, one could hand over cash, one could mow somebody's lawn, one could watch their kids, and the other person can send them Bitcoin, and there's nothing the government can do to stop that transaction. It is a very, very important tool, and I hope if you're somebody in the audience that's rejecting it simply because you misunderstand it, or perhaps there's an insecurity inside of you, you don't understand technology, therefore it's easier to reject it than to address the fact that you never really learned how to use computers, which is okay. I highly encourage you to face that, whatever it is, do some more research, reach out to someone like me. We got Mike Winter, one of the creators and one of the guys behind Quartal here. We got Amy doing workshops during lunch. You can come up to me, you can come up to Derek, you can come up to Romero. We will help you. We will hold your hand because we strongly feel this is a critical tool, and we want you to set the misunderstanding aside and learn to use it because it will empower you, especially as these CBDCs roll out. Derek. We can't hear you, brother.
A little early maybe, but for those who are, like the question John just mentioned, somebody's like, wait, you can buy crypto Bitcoin without a bank? You shouldn't be buying it with a bank. You shouldn't be buying it with PayPal or Cash App or Venmo if you care about privacy. In fact, you can buy crypto through PayPal, but you can't pull it out. It just sits there in PayPal's wallet for whatever. It's weird. Some people don't realize that though. So for example, I mentioned that I haven't used a bank account since 2008. And this is because all of the criminal banks have been robbing the people of the world for hundreds of years, and their families and the people behind them are largely the people that are responsible for a lot of the ills we see. So why would I want to support that? I don't. So I don't use the banks, and that can make life difficult. I also get paid in crypto. So when I write articles for The Last American Vagabond, anybody know The Last American Vagabond? Shout out Ryan. If not, you need to check out thelastamericannvagabond.com. When I get paid for my writing every month, I get sent crypto for my salary on a monthly basis, and I just hold that crypto. But at the moment, my apartment that I'm renting here in Morelia, they don't take crypto for rent yet. So every month I do have to cash out to get pesos to pay rent. I don't go to a bank. I don't go to anyone. I have developed a peer-to-peer network of friends that I can say, hey, will you buy some crypto for me and send me, wire, like for example, I'm starting to use wire services. This is something I write about in the second edition of How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, trying to figure out all these ways. So when John's been paying me, and John and everybody is gracious enough to deal with me and the way that I'm trying to be outside the system, I can get somebody to wire me money, and I can go to Walmart or to OXXO out here and pick up that cash, right? So don't deal with banks. Don't deal with that. I just either buy and sell my crypto from people that I trust, that I know, that I've developed over the years of being involved in this space, or people wire me money. There's different ways to be able to transact without using banks, and that's really why we're here to talk about. And yeah, that's one thing I want to mention. Before we do cut to our lunch break, though, Ramiro, can you pop that mural on screen real quick? I want to show you guys a clearer picture of this, John. I know you guys haven't really got to see it. I bid yesterday $1,500. We got Teresa, our friend, who she bid 2,000 something.
Wow.
Has anybody
We can
else?
see the colors now. It's beautiful.
Yeah, check that out. That was painted in 24 hours by Myra Gomez, and Vela came from LA here to paint this for us. So far, it's going to be going home to one of our guests for $2,100. But they have a sign-up sheet up front. Anybody who's listening online, if you want to make a bid on this beautiful piece of art, it is a giant wall that can be taken apart into 4 pieces and somehow sent to your house, and we'll figure it out. But if you want to bid on it, please go see the table out there. Do I got any bids right now? Anybody feeling like they want to take this beautiful wall home? Not yet. All right, we'll see how you feel after lunch. But I just wanted to make sure everybody could clearly see this beautiful piece of art.
Nice, nice. My first Bitcoin transaction was actually to Derek back in 2013 or 2014. He was writing articles for the Liberty Beat news service, and I was going to Western Union to wire money because, believe it or not, even back then he was rejecting the banking system. And so I was like, why don't we just try Bitcoin? I knew about Bitcoin as a freedom tool, right? In this speculative way, in this philosophical way. But when I used it practically, it was very easy to use. He got the money instantly, and that was really cool. And I just want to address, we even have comments coming in on the YouTube right now. Bitcoin can be stopped. Don't use Bitcoin. That's not true what this guy on stage is saying. Who does he think he is? I got a question for the folks that think Bitcoin can be stopped or the government's just going to ban it. How many years have to go by with Bitcoin continuing to operate exactly as it was intended to operate beyond government control before you drop that line. Because it's already been about 11 or 12, 22, 35, 40.
Also, John,
it can be stopped. It can be stopped. It's like 5 decades later, they're still saying it.
Also, John, I mean, I wonder though, the people who are listening to this, just that kind of mentality. Let's dig deeper into that mentality. I've had people say, too, they say, well, so what? What about when the government bans Monero or crypto or this and that? What are you going to do then? Keep using it? Yeah. I don't pay attention to their other things because good people disobey unjust laws. And when you're not doing anything wrong, there's no reason to stop. That's voluntarism. That's the whole philosophy we've been trying to share with you guys. If I want to exchange consensually and voluntarily with another person, whether it's shells or dollars or pesos or crypto, I have the freedom as a free individual to do that. And I don't care what any government says, I'm going to do it if that's what I need to do. And I hope you guys will take that similar mentality.
Put a little skin in the game. I thought he was going to burn these people just and say, Bitcoin can be stopped. They can hack Bitcoin. Now watch me swipe my Visa credit card because I don't use alternative currencies. I just complain about people that do.
I just use the same traditional systems. I'm going to complain about all the new alternatives because I don't understand them while I continue to fund Bank of America, who robbed everybody in 2008. It's interesting. Just saying. All right. I think we might have said enough, John. Let's send these people off to lunch.